Our vision is a bit blurrier, so let's try to see into the future all the way to WrestleMania. Next. Seth Rollins' injury threw everything out of whack, so WWE needed to adjust on the fly and pull the trigger on the Vision's turn on Rollins. So what will be our new path going forward? Well, I think today we're going to spell it all out all the way until WrestleMania 42. So let's start with the current players, and we have the Vision on one side with Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman. And of course, Heyman's not wrestling. So on the other side, we have the Bloodline with Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Roman Reigns. And I think it's safe to say we also have CM Punk and LA Knight on this side as well. But the numbers don't really work there, as it's pretty out of whack in favor of the good guys right now. So something simply has to start giving. So let's step this through event by event until we get to the finish line in Las Vegas. So like you weirdos who start at the last chapter of a book, let's briefly discuss WrestleMania, as reports were that Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins was scheduled for WrestleMania. But if we can't get The Rock, well, that was simply the best way to go. But do we now just cross off Rollins and insert Bron Breakker, or is there another way to go? Well, what we don't know is the WrestleMania on the SmackDown side, but one would expect that Cody Rhodes to fill one of those spots, and it has to be pretty much one of three names with Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, or CM Punk. And I had Punk in my prior videos, but I tried so hard to get Roman Reigns and The Rock in Tribal Combat that I most recently put Seth Rollins against Sami Zayn for the World Heavyweight Championship. And you know that I love Sami Zayn right here, and as great as winning the Royal Rumble would be for him, if we can just be patient and wait one more year, a WrestleMania win in Saudi Arabia is sitting right there for the ultimate prize instead of merely winning the Royal Rumble this year. So I think that has to be how it goes for Sami. So perhaps it's time to default to Randy Orton instead, as he certainly deserves at least one more WrestleMania main event, and you obviously have a lot of story to tell and tons of time to do so between these two. And he just can't stop looking at that title either, so I think that is our leading contender right now. So that leaves us with CM Punk, and I think we have to get to Rhodes and Punk at some point, but it just doesn't have to be yet, as they're not even on the same show still. Instead, does Punk make more sense for the other title match, since he is indeed on Raw with the World Heavyweight title, and we know that the match for the vacant title is CM Punk versus Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event, and both men have already been World Heavyweight Champions in 2025, though neither had much to write home about in their reigns, especially Punk's 5-minute reign. And then Jey also just had 2 defenses, and one of those was a DQ loss to Rollins. So not great either way for both men, but something's gotta give here, right? I've said it a few times, and I'd prefer shenanigans at Saturday night's main event to have the title remain vacant for a bit longer, but let's not assume that here today, and let's get a winner. So Punk and Jey have been on the same side of a bunch of matches all the way back to 2011, actually. Wow, pretty surprising there. And they were even on the same team against The Shield before Punk left the first time around. But the only times that they've been on opposite sides are this year, as Jey got his big win in the Royal Rumble, but CM Punk's won all 3 matches since, including their gauntlet match in July, and then both tag team and triple threat wins in the last few weeks. So as highly as WWE thinks of Jey in 2025, well, he's got his own story with his brother to worry about right now, and having a story has actually been a bad thing for championship aspirations, as we just saw Stephanie Vacate defeat Io Sky, because Io was the one in the depths of a great story that is still ongoing, of course, with the Kabuki Warriors, and Stephanie didn't have anything going on, as she had just won a Battle Royal and sat as the #1 contender, kinda like Punk is just sitting here as the #1 contender right now, while Jey has a great story with the Bloodline. So that means for today, we're going to assume that shenanigans aren't applying here, and we'll get a winner of some sort, and maybe the Vision will attack both men after the match. But for today, we're going with CM Punk to win that title. And that takes us to War Games, and reports were 8 of the 10 men that you probably expected to be in that match, including Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Jey Uso, and either LA Knight or Jimmy Uso, plus a little bit of surprise with Jacob Fatu since he's not even on this show. And then on the other side, it was expected to be Rollins, Breakker, Reed, Brock Lesnar, and Austin Theory. Wow, that one came out of the clear blue and seems to be an absolutely terrible idea, but anyways, let's scratch off Fatu and Rollins now that both are injured, and I guess we can safely include Jimmy and Knight now instead of just one of them. But is Reigns really even coming here? He said he doesn't even want to see the Usos until Christmas, but for our purposes today, it doesn't matter that much, so we'll just assume that he's there. Now, I don't know why Theory would be a choice at all. It does sound terrible, but what do I know? And again, that's not really going to factor into our plans going forward. Regardless, everyone we care about today should be there, and it seems like a good time for the bad guys to score a win on the good guys, even though that's not been a norm for War Games match, and so the good guys will be left questioning themselves even more. That takes us to the next Saturday night's main event in December, which is Cena's retirement match, and I'm betting we only get 3 matches instead of 4, as I bet the whole second hour is dedicated to Cena. But one of those matches will be Punk's first title defense, and it'll be against Brock Lesnar, who will be owed a favor by the Vision for helping them at War Games. So in typical WWE fashion, the Brons will try to help Lesnar, but they're gonna mess it up this time, costing Lesnar instead, and getting the Beast to be just a little bit upset for the next time he comes around. Incredibly, that takes us into January and to our third Saturday night's main event to talk about here, as last year there was 1 week before the Royal Rumble with a Saturday night's main event, so I guess we're going to assume as much this year as well. And since our Saturday night's main events are glorified house shows, we're just going to get a tag team match here with CM Punk and LA Knight against the Brons, with a very important stipulation that if Punk and Knight win, Knight will get to challenge Punk at the Royal Rumble, but if Breakker and Reed win, whoever scores that pinfall will face Punk instead. So Punk and Knight won their first and only encounter with the Brons, but I don't think Knight is on the path to main eventing WrestleMania this year, so to make it a little bit more interesting, Breakker will get the pin and do so on Punk to set up a Royal Rumble match. As we go to the Royal Rumble, CM Punk versus Bron Breakker is indeed up first, and Breakker is about to hit a spear on Punk, but Brock Lesnar runs out to stop him and hits an F5 to cost Breakker the match, or at least to get even for the Vision messing up his title shot. Then in the Rumble itself, well, Lesnar and Reed will find themselves in the match together, and as Lesnar's about to eliminate Reed, well, you guessed it, Breakker turns the tables and eliminates him instead. With the 3 OG Bloodline members in the Rumble near the end of the match, things are looking good for them until Jay again turns his back on his brother and eliminates Big Jim, and then he's going to try to do the same on Reigns, only for Reigns to stop him and give him some sort of look, and so he's the one to toss out Jay, and Reigns will indeed go on to win the Royal Rumble. So Reigns appears on Raw and is confronted by Punk to challenge him, only to be interrupted by Gunther instead. Yeah, we haven't talked about him at all, as he's always hanging around, saying that he never got his rematch against CM Punk after clearly being the better in their prior encounter, and he never would have lost if it wasn't for that broken nose that left him completely bloody. But before they can continue, they are interrupted by Big Bronson Reed, who says that he beat Roman Reigns, so he should be the one to get the shot to win the title and face Reigns at WrestleMania. And so Pierce makes it official, so it's a triple threat match at Elimination Chamber, and Reigns then goes on and confirms that he will face whoever wins that match. So at the Elimination Chamber, even with Breakker's help, Breakker spears Gunther, but then he accidentally spears Reed, so Punk GTS's Breakker and is easily able to fall on top of Reed to maintain that title. But of course, we also have a chamber match itself at the Elimination Chamber PLE, and that is for the #1 contender spot to face Cody Rhodes instead, so Raw gets Breakker, Jay, and Jim, and SmackDown gets Orton, McIntyre, and Zayn. And this time we're down to the final 3, and even though they should work together, This time, Big Jim senses that Jay is about to turn on him yet again, so Big Jim does it first and eliminates Jay with a spear and a splash before the Viper pops right on up and RKO's Big Jim to win that chamber. So that gets us to WrestleMania 42, and our main events are for the titles with Rhodes versus Orton and Punk versus Reigns. But we don't need to worry about who wins those matches here today. Instead, we want to talk about the Vision and the Bloodline and how all of those matches come together. Because right now we need round 2 of Jay versus Jimmy with the roles reversed, as Jimmy will now be the clear-cut good guy in the match. A lot of people have wanted to see Gunther versus Brock Lesnar or Brock Lesnar versus Bron Breakker, and with an amazing triple threat last year, I think it's a good idea to do it again this year with some new players, so I think that's what we do with Gunther versus Lesnar versus Breakker in what should definitely be one hard-hitting match. But we do have a couple people that we've talked about that still don't have a match, so why don't we just put them together and we'll get LA Knight versus Big Bronson Reed to finish it off. But the main thing that people have been talking about, should Bron Breakker be in the main event? And no, I'm not putting Breakker there just yet. And some people have argued for it and want that to be the case, as they think he should have a trial by fire since everyone has been talking about it for, well, about as long as Breakker has been around. So let's talk about Breakker. He appeared first in the 2024 Royal Rumble and was officially signed to SmackDown on February 16th, 2024 with his first match the following week. So if he main events WrestleMania 42, that would be 2 years and 2 months on the main roster. So at WrestleMania 31, Roman Reigns main evented against Brock Lesnar, which was 2 years and 4 months on the main roster. And I guess you would also have to count Seth Rollins, though he was not advertised for that match, because of course he cashed in right there. But before that, it was the Beast, Brock Lesnar himself, who main evented WrestleMania 19 just over 1 year from his debut. And on the women's side, we need to count them as well. Both Ronda Rousey and Bianca Belair main evented WrestleManias just a little bit more than 1 year after their main roster debuts in 2019 and 2021, respectively. But if Breakker were to do it, that would be less time than any male since Brock Lesnar. So would that really be believable here? Maybe, because a lot of work can be done until WrestleMania, especially with Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed at his side to make it seem like the right thing to do. And of course, I can certainly see them causing a lot of destruction to make that so. But here's the thing, I think Breakker is simply too risky right now, as we simply have too much talent at the top of the main roster with lots of proven veterans who are still at the top of their game, and with ticket prices at all-time highs, and by doing WrestleMania at the exact same venue as last year, well, this doesn't seem like the time to take a big swing with Bron Breakker. Instead, you probably should stick to the proven commodities that you already know will be great to main event WrestleMania. So Punk getting his shot carrying the title again versus Roman Reigns just feels right as a main event for this type of WrestleMania. And it is possible we get Breakker beating whoever beats Punk versus Jay and having that title not be the main event, just like Gunther versus Jay was not the main event this year. But that means we either get another Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns rematch, or we get Reigns not being in the title picture yet again. I guess both of those things are possible, but neither of them feel like the right thing to do right now. So let's let Breakker's vision take its time and perhaps really take over with a big win over Reigns at next year's SummerSlam instead. So that's how you get to WrestleMania 42 with what's best for the present, but with a new vision for the future. As there's simply no need to force Breakker into the main event just yet, so let the veterans handle their business this time around. And then, as Heyman prophesizes, it is written in the stars for Breakker to main event for years to come. But if you missed this week's Stop the 10 Count, be sure to see your way back to it and head right on over here. So until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this is still a podcast that needs a new name.